Hey, everybody, and welcome to Raw Dogs, your favorite podcast about video games and beer and red rings of fucking death.
Oh, red rings of death.
Oh,
how
Halo.
I do not miss you.
Yeah, that was a debacle. Today, I am still Brad, and special thanks to David Weiss for the amazing theme song.
Amazing. I love listening to the whole thing.
Yeah, I sometimes forget about it because I'm just editing, and I throw it in the beginning. I'm like, wait a second, that's Dave Weiss.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
We are spoiled.
Oh my God.
Turns out, if you corner him and Kevin Bayless and force beer down their throats, they'll be your friends for life.
That's usually a good entry point is just have a couple beers.
I ran into them at the Midwest Gaming Classic first thing in the morning, and I'm like, wait a second, I know you two. And they're like, yeah, we just flew here and we're jet lagged as shit. I'm like, you want a beer? And they both like stopped what they were doing, like, yes. Mm-hmm. And they followed us right over to our cooler and friends for life. But yes, I am Brad.
I'm Stoy.
And we are sans Dylan today. Dylan is having a birthday weekend with his lovely wife, and he was unable to make it. That's okay because Chad Xbox will take care of your Xbox 360 love today.
And Retro Stoy will be here to reminisce about the olden days of the the sixth generation?
Seventh
generation. That was it. Yeah.
Generations.
Arguably, I would say the biggest turning point in video games. In video game history, I say.
In my life, for sure, probably.
Yeah, and with the exception of the opening salvo of, the Atari and the Nintendo and stuff, how it kind of hit the market. But I want to say this generation kind of changed the landscape. And we're still feeling the effects of it today.
Yeah, and if you click this episode, we're talking about the Xbox 360. This is a console retrospective. And we're gonna get into this now. Just before we start with anything, initial feelings and thoughts. I am a big Xbox 360 fan. It's probably the second console I ever bought for myself, and I was diehard. I had Xbox Live. I played so much Halo 2 and Halo 3 on this puppy, and it's a video game console that just brought a lot of joy, and I have a lot of good feelings about so many games, so many experiences and times with friends, all on this box. How about you, Stoy?
Same for me. I was working at GameStop at the time, and I was there for the unveilings of the 360 and the PS3 at the time. When they came out to the masses, and of course the first used one that came into the store, I immediately set it aside and I was like, I will purchase. Said, because we got discounts for used stuff all the time, so I was kind of waiting for a used one to walk through the door. So, but it was a good time because at the time I know like a lot of my friends didn't have it, so I had a lot of friends coming over to test drive the 360, and then of course next week they're going to buy their own. So Microsoft owes me some commission.
Yeah. The 360. I don't know how many of these I own. I probably have gone through this premium pro model, whatever you want to call it. I probably had 2 or 3 of these. I don't think this is my original one on the table here because it's got some weird stuff.
I was going to say, it looks like it's seen some shit.
I did just inherit things through LAN parties.
Yeah.
I have maybe 15 or 16 360 controllers. I did not buy that many.
Wow.
Yep. I don't know where they came from. You have a LAN party, people bring stuff over and they forget them. So
yeah, you can always tell it's been used because the little dots on the left analog stick are all worn out.
They're nubbed out.
And obviously the right one's still okay. But
the left trigger feels bad on that puppy too. Squeaky. But these controllers, these things, they're not used anymore. But
it's still like, holding it in my hand, it's like, it's been a while since I held the 360 controller. It feels good, man.
It's one of the best.
It really is one of the best. Just it feels so good.
Yeah. Development for the 360 began in February 2003. That month, Microsoft held an event for 400 developers in Bellevue, Washington to recruit. Development was headed by Microsoft's Vice President, Jay Allard. And the same month, Peter Moore, the former president of Sega of America, joins Microsoft. It was codenamed many things, including Xbox Next, Xenon, Xbox 2, Xbox FS, and Nextbox. I can understand them not wanting to be Xbox 2.
Yeah.
Because people look at Xbox 2 and they look at PlayStation 3 and they're like, well, I don't know, one's got a higher number.
Right.
You gotta cater to the stupidity of the masses.
Mm-hmm.
And Nintendo is, of course, revolutionary. There's a little pun. They often will just have new names for their stuff. PlayStation is stuck to the numbering, and Xbox became the most confused ding-dongs on the planet.
Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, I'm glad they didn't do, they didn't go the Microsoft Xbox 2 route, because that would have, you're right. There would have been confusing marketing to say, well, there's a PlayStation 3 and an Xbox 2. Obviously, PlayStation 3 is the better, according to, marketing analysts or armchair computer nerds.
I could see them going with like an Xbox 6000 or something, or Xbox 2000, have some number that would be reflective of part of the processing power. Mm-hmm. And then those numbers at least are offset, so they know it means something different.
Right.
Which 360, I like it enough as a name. I think it works. It's much better than everything that came afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand the gaming full circle kind of thing and 360 degrees or whatever. I guess I get it. I can't wait till we have the episode where we talk about the Xbox One, though.
Yeah, I do like that. Everyone's like, is the next Xbox going to be the Xbox 720? I'm like, is that the convention now?
I think that was one of the test names, the prototype names, Xbox 720. But, oh, man, I think that would have been better, honestly, compared to the one.
August 12th, 2003, ATI signs on to produce the graphic processing unit for the new console. In September 2003, IBM agrees to develop the triple-core CPU for the console. Now, IBM essentially has to hide their work and continue moving forward in secrecy, because IBM was at the time in partnership with Sony as well. There was no exclusivity contract, but they didn't want Sony to be aware that they were double dipping into different consoles. Microsoft's direct competitor and developing their cell processor.
So IBM developed the cell processor for the PS3, or is that?
They were working with the PS3. I don't know if it was the cell processor. They were involved with that as well, though.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is a major concern. So. Another major concern during development was security. We're coming off the coattails of the generation of burned discs and people pirating games. It was so easy to pirate games in the previous generation that obviously Xbox didn't want to fall victim to that. The original Xbox suffered many security flaws in both hardware and software, which led to quick exploitation of the machine to run programs like Linux, play backup Xbox discs, and develop homemade games. And I know at the time, you always had friends that had a CD wallet of blank discs and say, this is my entire PlayStation collection.
Yeah, I remember going to a Halo party and someone would be playing like a Super Nintendo game in their Xbox. I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Yeah.
And I remember I was younger when the OG Xbox was out, and that was just so beyond my processing capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think that goes to the confusion of at the time when at GameStop, how many, and probably still to this day, people that work at GameStop can know like how many people call in and say like, hey, is Mario coming out for the Xbox? Well, I saw my friend playing Mario on the Xbox, so when's it coming out?
Yeah.
Just let everybody know, Mario will never be on an Xbox.
Xbox will be on Mario, though.
Yes, Xbox will be on Mario, though.
Yes. So Mario is an Xbox these days.
Yeah, you're right. So I'm waiting for that Gears of War Reloaded.
If I knew any of the proper nouns from Gears of War, I would do a Mario impression, but I don't.
Yeah.
It's a Marcus.
It's a Marcus.
It's me, a Marcus. That's all I got.
The implementation of a hypervisor, which is a small virtual machine that lives in the RAM, prevents unsigned code execution, as well as tampering with the console's memory. Another vital security feature implemented was IBM's eFuse technology, which is small fuses soldered onto the CPU that was blown with every system update, preventing downgrading to a possible exploitable dashboard kernel, as well as storing vital console information like the per console CPU key.
I can't believe that. That's so cool.
Yeah, it is. It's wild. I mean, Xbox had quite a few system updates.
Well, and it's Microsoft, so you know that they're like taking security super serious.
Yeah, I mean, they had the money.
Yeah.
Still have the money, so. However, though, time would prove that the 360 was not nearly as secure as once thought. And by the beginning of 2006, exploits had been discovered that allowed pirated game backups to run from the DVD drive, as well as the exploit to bypass the all-seeing hypervisor. That was funny, the HD DVD drive.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that was a great idea.
Yeah, that was. Too bad they didn't have the foresight to plan for that ahead of time, but maybe that would have delayed their development by a year or something, but
it would have had a horrifying price point if it did.
sure would have.
And it would have, who knows? But yeah, and the way it works with gamers and anyone who wants to break into something, they will break into something.
Yes, they will.
Take all the steps you can to make it difficult. Someone will figure out how to play Mario on your Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you're kind of like insulting your masses, I guess, by thinking like this is completely unhackable, and it's like some guy out there in Iceland is like, hold my beer, and cracks it.
Well, you saw what Nintendo for the Switch 2 recently announced.
Yeah.
Where if you're caught like doing any sort of fuckery online, they have the right to brick your console.
Yeah.
Like, that's some shit.
Or I think they said render it unplayable. It's kind of like that language speak where it's like, we may render it unplayable. It's like, okay, just say you're going to brick it.
So yeah, Luigi's going to come and shoot your Switch in the head or something.
Yeah, right.
May 12th, 2005, the Xbox 360 was initially unveiled on MTV.
Ah, man, the MTV generation was so wild. I was watching a Halo documentary
Yeah.
a little bit when they talked about the big release of Halo 3 at the time, and how it was like literally plastered all over MTV, millions of dollars in marketing. It was
huge.
That was a time, man.
MTV was huge.
Yes.
And there was the official debut of the 360, hosted by Elijah Wood. I watched this today, and it is as useless and cringy as you could expect. This even featured the Pimp My Ride crew breaking down the console and pimping out an original Xbox. With
We heard you like Xbox 360, so we put an Xbox 360 in your Xbox 360.
It's just such a huge circle jerk. This whole thing, everyone's like, and then they had Sway. You probably remember Sway. He's like, yeah, so tell me about the games. That's why I'm here. And it's just like everything was pre-written, and there was even a fair amount of words about like, let's talk about the ring. And it would just seem like, you mean the Red Ring? We're gonna get to the Lord of the Ring. There was a lot of useless information, and then they even featured Wilmer Valderrama playing Perfect Dark competitively. Great stuff. May 18th through May 20th at E3, Sony seemed to almost gloat over the fact that its next generation outputs dual 1080p signals, while Microsoft 360s only had 1080i and 720p high definition.
No one knew what the difference was at this time.
Looking back on this now, I'm like, that's a huge fucking deal, though.
Yeah, that is now when you think about it.
Yeah.
Progressive scan versus interlaced.
The Killzone 2 was so impressive, people were debating whether or not it was pre-rendered or real.
And this was the funny thing, because at the time I remember Sony doubled down and said, "No, that's real." And then like,
was it pre-rendered?
It was pre-rendered.
Yeah.
They were. I think they were trying to gloat like, "Oh yeah, that's real." And then a couple months later, like, "Nah, we lied."
It was a mistake.
Sorry.
Wii was announced as the Revolution. No controllers were shown. Twilight Princess for the GameCube was showed at length. Metal Gear Solid, Oblivion, and Guitar Hero were shown off as well. Give you a perspective of the time. May 23rd, 2005. Bill Gates is featured in Time magazine and puts his foot in his mouth. He says, "It's perfect. The day Sony launches, they walk right into Halo 3. Bungie did not sign off on this. They're not like, we won't be ready. Like, that's not an acceptable date."
Yep.
And then later, Microsoft executive Robbie Bach had to clarify, saying, philosophically, the point Bill was trying to make is that we're not just going to ship and have some great stuff coming up. He said Halo 3 will ship when Bungie is ready. That's fucking right.
Yeah.
I will go to bat for Bungie back then.
Yeah.
But after Halo Reach, I can't speak too much about them, but
Halo Reach was peak. Was the peak Halo.
That's my favorite Halo game.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. So, depending on orientation, depending on the type of Xbox 360 you have, a hard drive port
not the one that you have, but like how you have it.
Oh, how you have it, like, yeah.
Oriented,
yeah, I guess. If you have it standing up or laying on its side. A hard drive port is either located at the top when it's standing vertical or left side when it is horizontal. And this can range between 20 and 500 gigs.
I had forgotten about this thing until I was doing my research again today, that it's got like that own unique shaped hard drive that sits, no one uses vertical orientation on their consoles, I don't think.
No, because there's always the running, assumption that it renders your discs, like it burns your discs up.
Scratches them up.
Yeah, it scratches them up. So,
and I understand that, but these little like proprietary hard drives are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that you could just buy a separate one, or you could have multiple ones and just pop it right on, I do dig that, because I remember the PS2 had hard drive space, and that you had to have the awkward insert in the back. And it was like half the console for the PS2 seemed like it was empty on the inside for that.
Yeah, because obviously I don't think they initially released the PS2 with the hard drive capability. I think it took them a while.
Yeah,
but yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with proprietary hard drives. I know it's a little bit better now. That's obviously, I think Sony's learned its lesson with having proprietary hard drives, especially with their handheld devices. But these were surprisingly cheap, like not immensely expensive.
Yeah.
You know, but imagine like having a system nowadays and having only 20 gigs of storage space on it.
Useless.
Useless.
What did the Switch come with?
64? Does it come with 64?
I don't remember, but the Switch, I was like, that filled up quick.
Yeah, that sure did. So, the hardware of the original Xbox was considered to be very powerful for its time. Its IBM CPU featured 3 symmetrical cores running at 3.2 gigahertz each, 6 hardware threads, 3 VMX 128 vector units, 128 VMX 128 registers for every hardware thread, and a 1 megabyte L2 cache.
I don't know what these things mean.
I don't either, but
This is for someone.
someone listening to this has a raging boner right now.
Or they're scoffing at like, oh,
Yeah.
take these guys.
God, this is like can't even run Quake.
Yeah.
Its GPU is also remarkably impressive. ATI's graphics card features a 500 megahertz processor with 10 megabytes of embedded DRAM. It also had a unified shader architecture to provide a much more realistic graphic design. All those browns and grays. The exterior design featured matte colors that came in white. And as you can see, it gets dirty real easy.
It looks fucking horrible over here.
Yeah, that it do.
This has been through a lot of Halo parties.
Oh, yeah, it has. You can see all the Mountain Dew and Dorito stains and everything.
Yeah. Cheeto fingers.
Yep. As far as audio and video goes, all games are required to support Dolby Digital 5.1 surround sound.
I dig that.
I dig that too.
Surround sound was something I barely experimented with in the PS2 era, because not a lot of games had it.
Yeah.
Remember Dirge of Cerberus was my first surround sound video game.
Ooh.
And I was blown away. But the fact that when you could play, Halo games, and feel all of the environment through sound was very cool.
Yeah, I think my first real experience with 5.1 surround sound at the time was Battlefield 2 for my 360, and I was like, oh my God.
We have arrived.
We made it, guys. We made it. Initially, there were no digital video outputs such as DVI or HDMI on the Xbox 360. This was obviously at the time when people still had VGA ports and coax cables like plugged into their systems. Yep. So instead, HD quality output could only be produced over a YPBPR component video and later VGA via a software update.
It's weird not having HDMI output by default. I did not realize that until I was going back through this today.
Yeah, because it's not like you can just like buy an HDMI cord, just any random HDMI cord like for these things. Obviously, we'll get there when we get there, but for the newer ones you can. But
yeah.
Which is next? An HDMI port was introduced in the Xbox 360 by July 2007 with the introduction of the Elite model. There are a wide array of SD TV and HD TV resolutions supported by the console hardware, up to 1080p after the October 2006 software upgrade. And while most games are rendered natively at 720, the video from all games can be scaled by the hardware to whatever resolution the user has set in the console settings, from 480i, NTSC, and 576 iPAL, all the way up to 1080p HD TV.
Yeah.
And that's cool because you don't want the hardware to like stretch it and make it look kind of wonky. Like you want the hardware to do the heavy loading and actually kind of, like remaster, do their own little remastering in the hardware.
Yeah.
So, and this is the funny thing that Europe with PAL region type of systems, they had different resolutions on their TVs. I don't know and understand the concept why, but
they did, and even like early on, they had different frame rates for their old school games.
Oh yeah.
So the way they would get like ported over to the PAL region would often not compensate, so their games would play, was it faster or slower?
Faster.
They'd play it slightly faster.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah.
I remember like some history of speedrunning, people would be talking about different games. I'm like, it was faster to beat games. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Networking, there was a built-in 10 to 100 megabit wired Ethernet adapter.
I love the Ethernet port right in there.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And then eventually, I know we got like a little wireless dongle once wireless internet started hitting the market at the time.
Yep.
But then the big thing, backwards compatibility would be made possible with emulation.
Yeah.
Which there's that word, emulation. It's getting to be a little bit more socially acceptable now, I think.
But backwards compatibility, good thing. And the majority of gamers won't give two hoots about emulation. Mm-hmm. And then the purists will be like, this is literally unplayable. I'm going to go drink some champagne and laugh at you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm pro emulation.
Yeah, I am too, 100%. I was a little disappointed, especially with the PS3 when they released the newer models.
And they took it out.
I mean, they kept PS1 in there, but they were like, it's too hard to play PS2 games on PS2. I'm sure it is.
Yeah. As far as like the actual hardware, the console, disc tray with open and close button on the side. 3 USB 2.0 ports. There's 2 on the front, 1 in the back. The later S&E models would have an additional 2 ports in the back. Proprietary audiovisual port, not just the HDMI. Ethernet port, HDMI port in later models. Connect port in later models.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
The power port, HD connector, and memory card slots. I don't know if I've ever seen a memory card slot used.
I don't think I've ever owned one in my life.
I've never. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen them. I think maybe at like a Halo party, someone might bring one over, but
yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, they're for those out there in listener land, they're tiny little squares.
Oh, I need to bring my profile over. I'm like,
yeah,
no,
exactly.
You play as Donut, and you're gonna love it.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
Yeah,
here's a shitty third-party controller for you to use.
Yeah, here's the Mad Cat. Controller was available in both wired and wireless iterations, similar to the OG Xbox, except the auxiliary buttons have been moved. The back and start buttons are now in a more central position. The white and black buttons on the original Xbox, those funny little guys.
Yeah.
They have now been replaced with the LB and RB bumpers, much preferred.
100%.
And then there is the guide button in the center, which has become something that every console has now. It's kind of like that home button.
Yeah, where you actually pop up like the system hardware home screen, which definitely, I think, they were the first to do something like that.
I still, like, when I'm playing Claire Obscure, I try and hit pause and it doesn't pause, but I hit the home button and it pauses.
Yeah, that always, I struggle every time.
Yep, certain games won't let you just leave, but if you go home to the menu, that's a pause by default.
Yep.
The button is surrounded by a ring of lights divided into 4 quadrants that provide gamers with different types of information during gameplay. For instance, during a split-screen multiplayer match, a particular quadrant will light up to indicate to a player which part of the screen they're playing on at that time.
Neat.
In this case, when the user pushes the button, they access the Xbox Guide, a menu that provides access to features like messaging friends, downloading content, voice chat, customizing soundtracks while staying in the game. Also can turn off the controller or the console.
And then also it could flash at you when the battery is dying.
Yeah, and that's good to know.
Yes.
And as far as the disc, the 360 is equipped with a 12x DVD drive. Games are stored on standard 8.5 gigabyte dual-layer DVD ROMs. The drive is able to read both DVD ±R and ±RW. These are things that certain generation know about.
Yep.
In addition to be able to play DVD video right out of the box, unlike its predecessor, which required the purchase of that stupid add-on remote controller.
Yeah.
What a bonehead move.
Really was. I mean, that thing was unnecessary. So many buttons on that thing just to play DVDs. Oh boy.
Which is why I never used the original Xbox to play a DVD once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Came out the big day, March 30th, 2005. Promotional campaign began with an alternate reality game called Our Colony. On ourcolony.net, challenges were offered to the community that would reward players with cropped pictures of the console and game screenshots. I did not hear about this at all.
There's 3 different alternate reality games that I didn't hear about as well. This is for like the uber nerds on the internet. I think.
Clearly, yeah. Yeah, someone's trying to take my gamer card right now.
Yeah.
May 12th, our colony closed. Visitors were instead greeted with a promotional video hosted by Jay Allard. Our colony participants were allowed to special access to insider info and previews before release to the general public.
These days, if any of this thing was happening, it would be immediately shared online and everyone would have access to everything.
Yeah, no kidding. So this was at the sacred days of the internet when like actually secrets could be kept kind of.
And well, there was no easy way to spread things, but now with X and Blue Sky and all these things,
And Reddit, yeah.
just immediately everything.
Yep.
It's a shotgun right to the internet.
Yeah, that's why I kind of took the shock out of the Oblivion remaster Shadow Drop. It's like everybody knew it was happening. It was just a matter of when.
Over a year.
Yeah, everyone's like, yeah, they're going to shadow drop it. It's like, okay, when?
But it was still exciting.
Yeah, it still was.
Well, and us gamers that are plugged in, we were aware. Mm-hmm. Everyone at work on the construction site I'm at, everyone's like, yo, what the fuck? Oblivion's back? And someone's like, yeah, I guess it was the game they did before Skyrim. I'm like, you dweebs.
I mean, that's so cool that there's obviously, yeah, we have a pulse in the gaming industry and we know when the rumors are circulating what's happening. And then there's still a huge contingent of people out there that are just like, come up to me like, hey, man, did you hear about this Oblivion remaster that they just dropped? I'm like, yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah, I've been talking about it.
I've known about it for a year.
But yeah, I had coworkers that would come up and be like, dude, I'm going home and buying it right away. I was like, just get Game Pass. Jeez.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But-
what's Game Pass?
Yeah.
Brother.
I have no time.
Yeah.
I just bought 5 Switch 2s. Calm down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Soon enough.
1 more month.
Yeah.
September 27th, 2005, Origin, with an E, Xbox360.com, was the next viral marketing campaign. It offered visitors an opportunity to enter in various contests. The initial contest was a raffle that required participants to answer 3 trivia questions regarding the Xbox 360 for a chance to attend a promotional pre-launch event. I remember entering into this at the time because I was like, I want a chance to win one.
Yeah.
Clearly, I did not win. But new contests included a Halo 2 tournament and a competition to design a gamer tile, which is an avatar icon. The design for the website employs flash animation of a bonsai tree and bland elevator music to create a serene environment that is punctuated by visually intense psychedelic episodes involving the host rabbits. What did I just read?
Yeah. So that's some internet stuff right there.
Yeah, I'll say. Oh, man. October 2005, Hex 186 was launched. That is 360 in hexadecimal for you math nerds out there.
Yeah.
Members of the Team Xbox forums were directed to the hex186.com website through mysterious messages posted by someone called Lutz. I remember this for sure. The website hosted a number of images that appeared to perpetuate obscure conspiracy theories, but sometimes contained oblique references to Xbox 360. The campaign was later revealed to be a U.S. contest that offered participants a chance to win one of 360 Xbox 360 console bundles 6 days before the official launch.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'll say, yeah. This is some like sleuthing, like conspiracy theory stuff. This is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Winners from Hex 186 were invited to attend the Xbox 360 launch party in Palmdale, California, and given VIP access to games, food, and special areas, all free of charge. Get to hang out with what's that? Carson Daly and Christina Aguilera,
Wilmer Valderrama.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone had bleach tips.
Yep. Listening to Limp Bizkit. Those are the days.
Fred Durst was there for sure.
Oh, 100%.
Now, there were 2 different versions of the console at release. There's the Core, which had a white disc tray, which I've never seen, I don't think, a Core model.
I don't think I've ever seen a Core model.
It featured no storage.
Not in person.
No HDMI. This console would achieve 1080i when connected with a separately sold cable.
Now, keep in mind, this was at the time when, like, if you put a disc in the system, you didn't have to install anything.
You could just play it.
You could just play it.
Yeah.
It just plays right off the disc.
Crazy.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a time.
Then there was also the standard, which is also referred to as Pro or Premium. Silver disc tray. This is the one that you most commonly see everywhere. Mm-hmm. Featured a detachable hard disk drive with 20 gigabytes. This model did have HDMI output, but did not come with an HDMI cable. Launched November 22nd, 2005 in North America. Core models were $300, Pro models were $400. And that is an achievable price point. November 2005, I was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah, my early 20s.
Yeah,
Yep.
freshman or sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
And those were achievable.
Yeah.
Those were numbers I could grasp. I remember when the PS3 was announced for $600. That amount of money doesn't exist for me at that time.
No.
It's hard to wrap my mind around now. Mm-hmm. So the $400 for the Pro model did seem like an achievable thing. I think those core versions they make of consoles, they're never going to be for me.
Yeah.
And they often seem just like shot in the knee, like not capable of doing what you need it to do.
Mm-hmm. For us that I don't want to say it in a bad way, like take the hobby seriously. Like you don't want the bare minimum because at some point you're going to be upgrading. So it's like you might as well just maybe save up the couple extra bucks or go sell a couple extra things just to, afford that Pro model and, be satisfied with your purchase for a long time.
Yeah, I have considered like taking my PS5 in because I know GameStop will do really good purchasing for those, and then getting a PS5 Pro upgrade with a disc drive. That would probably be about $200 at that point for me to get the upgrade.
Yeah,
which is something I could think about. I also my PS5 is a refurbished one because mine came broken. CE-108255-1 error code. I had to say it a lot.
I was going to say, yeah, okay.
I just don't have luck with consoles, I guess.
I've been pretty fortunate.
My PS Portal also didn't work.
Yeah, I remember you said you had that dead pixel.
Fucking dead pixel.
Oh, damn, that sucks. I've been fortunate with my original PS5, and I still have my original Switch, and I have no joystick drift on my original Switch.
Me neither.
However, I just realized I did switch my Joy-Cons to the Skyward Sword Joy-Cons, and I haven't used the original ones in years.
Yeah.
So maybe that has something to do with it.
Could be. Now, reports showed that Microsoft did release all consoles available at the time. They did not restrict their numbers. Sometimes that does happen, so they can say they sold out.
Nintendo.
According to the NDP Group, North American sales totaled 326,000 units in November 2005 and reported that 40,000 units appeared on eBay during the initial month of release, which would mean that 10% of the total supply was resold. Guilty?
Guilty?
Not for the 360, but for the PS5 and Series X and the Switch 2, if I can get my hands on one extra console or two, because I am one of those people trying to get my hands on one, I'll buy another if it's available. Mm-hmm. Like with the Switch 2, I bought 5.
Okay.
Because I was ready and had a chance. I'm selling 3 of them at cost.
Yeah, you knew you had people that would scoop it up from you. So,
and if I can resell one to pay for my part of my Switch 2, I'm a poor man.
We're all poor.
Jesus will judge me later.
Yeah, right.
Or whoever wants to judge me. I don't really care.
You bought 5 Switch 2s and you sold them for profit.
I also, a coworker, a younger kid, he had his Xbox One he had his Xbox One stolen, and I raised funds for a Series X for him. So I do good things.
Yes, you do.
I don't know. I'm trying to apologize. I do sell things on eBay sometimes, but I understand. And if there's a market for it, people are going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if no one bought it, then that'd be one thing. But
honestly, I blame the console. I blame Sony and Nintendo if they can't come up with a better way to get these consoles into the people's hands that want it. I like what Nintendo was doing by you need to have a Nintendo account to get it through their store. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, they can't also ostracize Target and Walmart and Amazon, Best Buy. So there will always be this market for resell. It's a funny thing.
Yeah, I at this point, I don't think you can't ignore it and you can't pretend it doesn't exist. It's going to happen. I know if you go on eBay right now, you can probably see a bunch of Switch 2 pre-order guarantees, ranging between $600 and $800.
Yes.
God, I just shudder at the time when PS5s and Series X's were $1,000 on eBay. Just
I remember the PS2 was selling for over $1,000.
Yeah, because I remember at the time I really wanted a PS2, and every day I seemed like after school I would hit up a store, I would hit up GameStop, Best Buy, KB Toy Stores at the time, which is where I ended up finding it. So
yeah, well, some of these consoles, if you were a regular gamer and you weren't the obsessed online person. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't find them. You wouldn't see them in the stores. And that's just the way it was.
Yeah, you have to actually do work. You can't just walk into a Best Buy and there's a whole stack of them sitting there. It still boggles me to this day when I walk into a Best Buy and I see like a stack of PS5s behind the register, and I'm like, man, 5 years ago that would have been a sight to behold.
First couple of years it was out, it was almost impossible.
Yeah, it was, unless you actually did some legwork. With the 360, it was kind of I felt like it was kind of the same thing, just because like we were sold out all the time. All we had was core units, and people that would come in would not want a core unit.
The 360 did have the advantage too of releasing about a year before the PlayStation 3, and it didn't work for Dreamcast. It did definitely work for the PS2, and for the 360, it was a major advantage.
This is why I think in some cases I agree with Phil Spencer. I think he's the one that said like there's no console war anymore. The console war is over, because if you push and compete to release things early, you will pay for it.
Yeah,
in the long term, which is what I think what happened to Sega, because with the Saturn and the Dreamcast, they were pushing that hardware out early.
They were competing with themselves at that point too.
Yeah. They wanted to be first with everything, and they were good systems, but just the developers couldn't catch up in time.
Yeah, and the Xbox had enough going for it. Yeah, and Xbox Live was hugely popular. The PS2 Online was half-assed as shit.
Nope.
And Nintendo was off playing its own game, as they always have been.
Yep.
360 arriving when it did, I think, was just awesome. Yeah, and I remember like the first year or two of Xbox 360, the first like whole year, the most played online game was Halo 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still.
Yeah.
And that was the nice thing about the Xbox 360 being backwards compatible, because, while it didn't like upscale the graphics, I think, at all. So launch games, what came out at this time?
Very important. You need a good launch lineup.
You really do. You really do. And there was something here for everybody. So you had 18 launch titles in the US. You had Amped 3, which was a snowboarding game, right? Or something? Or
yeah, snowboarding. And you always need extreme sports, regular sports, like a first-person shooter, and then some weird shit.
Call of Duty 2, which at the time, depending on the platform that it was on, the game was different. So this wasn't the same as like Call of Duty 2 on the PC. It was like its own game.
I played the shit out of Call of Duty 2. I remember it was one of my first times being stoned. I'm like, this is the most intense game I've ever played.
Hell yeah. This one shocked me. Condemned Criminal Origins, how gritty. And this was at the time when those dirty serial killer movies were popular. Seven, yeah. And so Condemned Criminal Origins like really had that kind of dark horror feel, and like the difficult like hand-to-hand combat was so cool.
You were solving a crime? Is that Condemned?
Yeah.
Or were you the crime?
I mean, you were solving the crime, but you also had PTSD like a mother. So
Is the twist that you were the criminal the whole time?
Probably.
We don't know. Okay.
We don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember thinking that game looked interesting, but I never had the chance.
I think you were like unhinged to the point where you were committing crimes along the way.
Okay.
So that's the kicker there. FIFA 06 Road to FIFA World Cup. This was the year, obviously, that the World Cup was happening, so they got to capitalize on that. Gun, which was a really good, really fun third-person Western shooter.
I'm gonna give it a 0 out of 10 on naming. I think Gun is a bad name.
Yes, it really was, because what does it tell you? Nothing.
Yep. This is a game called Run.
Yeah. This is a game called Shoot.
This is Jump.
Voiced by Thomas Jane.
Oh, really?
I remember that.
The Punisher.
Main character, yeah. Yep. Cameo, Elements of Power, which was Xbox's attempt to be an RPG.
No. That was a 3D platformer.
Was that a 3D platformer?
Yes.
Oh, I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Cameo, that was like, I want to say it was Rare. And
yes, it was.
Yeah, and it was, you could turn into different like creatures, and I have it, and I couldn't play it more than a couple hours. I'm like, this is not for me.
You got your other sports titles: Madden NFL 06, NBA 2K6, NBA Live 06, NHL 2K6, Tiger Woods PGA Tour 06. So you got something for all those sports fans out there for literally every sport, which is cool, especially at the time when NBA Live was a thing.
Yeah.
One of the better Need for Speeds out there, Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Yep.
An actual upgrade, because this came out on the Xbox previously, but then the 360, they upgraded it. It's funny, like the internet is catching on to the original Most Wanted.
Yeah.
Like they released the BMW M3, I think that was in this original game. They put it in the new Need for Speed Inbound.
Okay.
And it kind of like an homage to like, you know, Most Wanted, you know, that came out 20 years prior and stuff. And I think the internet is reverting back to playing Most Wanted again. So, which you can play. I think it's backwards compatible.
Yeah.
Perfect Dark Zero, which was, I mean, you could say not so perfect.
It was.
It was a game.
Everyone talked about it like this is the game that was promised. I have the very sexy limited collector's edition here.
Yeah, and that really nice steelbook.
Yep, that's steelbook. It has that weird staining that happens.
Well, you could just say it's a little blemish, a little mole.
I don't even know.
Which this was shocking at the time because obviously Perfect Dark was a Nintendo 64 exclusive, and then when Rare kind of jumped ship to go play with Microsoft, yeah.
I got the bonus DVD and a bunch of nonsense stuff.
Ooh,
on
let me
here.
see this little card thing. What is this?
Yeah.
Ooh, this is fancy.
Yep.
Datadyne.
People love Perfect Dark, and I don't think anyone liked Perfect Dark Zero.
Yeah, that was a shame because I think there was a lot of hype over it, and then you played it, and it was like, it isn't what I expected Perfect Dark to go.
But I was told this is one of the games to get at launch, and I was lied to. Thanks a lot, EGM.
Yeah, we did see that get traded in pretty immediately.
Yep. I have it on eBay. No one's buying it.
Arguably one of the longest titles for any video game out there, called Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie.
What a stupid title.
Wow.
The official game. Just call it Peter Jackson's King Kong. I'm going to understand it's a video game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure no one's going to pick it up and be like, oh, this is the movie. I'm going to pick up the movie.
I remember looking at a lot of previews in EGM and Game Informer about this, and I'm like, this game looks dope. It looks next level.
What would you think of it when you played it?
I think I played the demo and I'm like, I'm never going to play this.
Yeah, I didn't get past the demo too. I was like, nah, I'm good.
I was Peter Jackson pilled at that point.
Yeah.
Still am to a fair amount. He's a wonderful, wonderful creator. But after Lord of the Rings, I was like, whatever he does, I'm in. And King Kong, I remember convincing myself I love that movie. It's a fine movie. It's long in the tooth, but.
Yeah. It was a movie, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He was riding off the high of the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yep.
Also, one of the best racing games at the time, Project Gotham Racing 3, kind of appealed to the arcade racers out there, along with Ridge Racer 6 that came out at this time too as well. Quake 4, which was kind of coming off the heels of Quake 3 Arena, having it be like a big multiplayer focused game, and then like having a story driven campaign, and then also like just a really bad multiplayer.
Yeah.
I was a little gamer boy, and I was quite disappointed with this one. I mean, it had an interesting premise halfway through. I don't know if you ever played Quake 4.
Never played any of them.
No, it had a really interesting twist halfway through the game. And I mean, obviously it's 20 years, so I'm still going to kind of hold off on spoilers just in case people out there want to play it. But it did have a very interesting twist halfway through that I was like, oh, didn't expect that. But I mean, it was fine, I guess. And then Tony Hawk's American Wasteland.
Sure.
Fine.
Go ahead, Tony Hawk.
Yeah. Keep riding the coattails.
Project 8, I did enjoy. I did not care for American Wasteland or Underground was fine, I guess.
Yeah, Underground was kind of like trying to go back to its roots a bit and didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call of Duty 2, though, attach rate of 77%.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think that was probably my favorite game out of the launch that I played.
Yeah, this was when Medal of Honor started to lose ground a bit. Once Call of Duty 2 came out, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is way better."
Yeah, the home screen. It had multiple iterations when it launched. So it had what people referred to as the blades.
Oh, the blades.
The blades. Looking back, it is not a great way to organize information.
No, it really isn't. But just like the.
Yeah.
Oh.
Featured Marketplace, Xbox Live, Games, Media, and System. The console had the ability to stream music, play television programs and films through Xbox Music, Xbox Video, and other third-party content services. 2008, it received an update 3 years later of NXE, which stands for New Xbox Experience, which the blades are gone. And this featured your avatar front and center.
Yeah, because the avatar was released around the same time, or at the same time, right?
The Wii very much was pushing the Me.
Yeah.
And it's funny when PlayStation and Xbox jump onto what Nintendo does.
Mm-hmm.
Because Nintendo was right. People like to see little versions of themselves.
Yeah, cute little versions of themselves. Oh man, remember PlayStation Home?
Remember PlayStation Move?
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
And Xbox Connect? Do you want to bounce a soccer ball on your head, or was that the iToy? Both of them sucked.
iToy.
Yeah.
iToy was that. I remember doing that. I was like, this sucks.
This sucks.
Yeah.
With the new Xbox experience, though, you can also install games from disk to your hard drive to reduce load time and noise. Disk must remain in system to play, however.
Man, that disk drive noise, like especially with the original models, oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it makes a sound you're like, oh.
Oh no. You just like take it a couple steps back, like, oh my god.
Are you okay, buddy? What's going on in there? Yeah, but it's cool. I love installing games from disk because if it's going to load faster, that's something I want. Especially with something like Oblivion or Skyrim, where you will be looking at loading screens.
Quite often, like every time you go into a new area, go into a new building.
It's funny how I don't think I could go back to that. Mm-hmm. Like Elden Ring having almost instantaneous loading for that massive of a game.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine going back to a 5-10 second loading screen, which, you go back to Oblivion, there's some decent loads. Mm-hmm. So anything that can cut back on that is a good thing.
We are spoiled nowadays.
Oh, just my favorite part of modern console gaming is that like instant restart or whatever. I forget what it's called on different systems, but I don't have to look at the menu, the home screen for video games anymore. As long as I've been playing it, I can go up there, turn clear obscure on, and I'll be right where I was instantly.
Yep.
2011, another update was released to the home screen called Metro, which simplified everything into somewhat of a combination of Blades and NXC. Things centered and featured blocks with like simple pictures, kind of more akin to Windows 8 and Windows Phone. And of course, you needed the Bing search engine.
This is where Microsoft is like, Bing, use Bing, please use Bing.
It's right there. You
It's
have
right
no
there.
excuse.
Come on, you have no excuse. Yeah.
And then I would use Bing to look up Google.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then I would go to Google. Xbox Live was, of course, a huge deal. This time, Xbox Live Silver would be free, and Xbox Live Gold was the paid subscription. The Silver allowed a user profile, message boards, Xbox Live Arcade and Marketplace accessibility. But if you wanted to do online gaming, you'd have to pay $60 for the year for Xbox Live. I'm looking at the box for my original Xbox 360, and it did come with, it says, free Xbox Live Silver included, and this also came with the headset, so you could talk, laugh, and listen on Xbox Live.
Live, laugh, love on your Xbox 360.
Yeah, I prefer that.
Yeah, that headset was okay.
I used it a whole bunch.
Yep. It was good enough. I mean, especially since like you still wanted to, I mean, you couldn't stream audio through the headset itself. So you still had to like keep one ear open and listen to your TV.
But it worked though, because then you could only have your friends in the ear.
Yep.
Or the person who said that they were banging your parents.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Your mom's right here next to me, dog. Yeah, they I just remember getting trying to get like Turtle Beach headphones at this time.
Yeah.
And just like the amount of fuckery you had to do with the wiring and the streaming and just getting everything to sync up was just a nightmare. It's like nowadays it's like you just plug in a dongle and it just does it automatically.
Anything.
Yeah.
Any of them. Though.
Man,
Like, yeah,
we are spoiled these days.
And the marketplace, virtual market for games, DLC, trailers, demos, Xbox Live Arcade, and dashboard themes. And then there's XNA, which I remember this is something I heard about and would read about, and I knew it was not for me because I was a simple young child. A freeware, .NET-based game development framework and platform used for Windows and Xbox 360 development. Games made on XNA could be submitted to the App Hub and made available on the marketplace. Some games built on this include Bastion, Stardew Valley, and Axiom Verge.
So I was unemployed for 2 months at the time. I was getting unemployment at this time, and then I heard about this, you could develop your own games. So I was like, well, what good way for me to stay productive while unemployed. And
Very cool.
Yeah, and especially coming from a guy with like no programming experience and the XNA, there was so many like, XNA for Dummies books out there, I would like go scoop up books at Barnes and Noble and then come home and then try to kind of develop games and stuff like that. But it's hard. It's hard to make your own game.
Yeah.
It's not as easy. One of the games at the time I remember playing was a dishwasher simulator.
Okay.
It was like it's made by the same guy that did Salt and Sanctuary.
Okay.
I think it was like his very first game that he did, and he developed it from the ground up in X and A. So I was like, I followed this guy. I was like, man, and he made a book based on like how to make your own game and how to make your own just like side-scrolling action game.
He made a game and then realized it'd be easier to make a book than make another game. So I'm like, I'm gonna go make a book now.
Yeah, exactly. So I was a sucker that bought his book, and yeah, I played around.
I'm sure it was a good book, right?
Yeah, no, it was, and his ability to kind of really dumb it down, because at this time, like, you know, the concept of computer programming was so like, you know, a lot of like C#, C++ programming language that it's like, I don't know how to do this crap. So to have it dumbed down in the very simplest of formats, then having the troubleshoot and look through the code and see you put in a colon instead of semicolon, you know, that was just, God.
I love when video games can figure out the tool, like a way to give the tools to the gamer, like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. All right, here's a empty parking lot. You can put ramps where you want. Mm-hmm. Halo 3 and Halo Reach, going into Forge and being able to make your own maps, that was robust.
Yeah.
And, you know, Mario Maker, things like that give you the tools to play around. Some of the best experiences on Halo 3 and Halo Reach were going on and seeing what other people made.
Yeah.
And that shit was so cool. Like, they would make Griffball. Griffball was not made by Bungie.
No,
and Griffball was huge.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It really is. Time Splitters 2, I think, when they introduced the map makers and people were recreating the old GoldenEye maps.
Yeah.
That was fun. That was like obviously pretty close in memory. You know, we're only talking like a few years removed, but it was still cool to like, you know, still go back and play some of those old GoldenEye maps.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff.
So, and here we go to the dark side of the history, which Microsoft kind of wears not as a badge of honor, but like, yeah, we know we screwed that up. And
they sell the merch now anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, there was a whole YouTube documentary on it almost. So
comedy is tragedy plus time.
Yes.
And this is indeed a tragedy.
Oh, yeah, it really was, because at the time, the fact that they made it easy really, I think, saved their bacon throughout this whole process, because this could have ended poorly.
This could have ended the brand.
It really could have. So immediately after release of the Xbox 360, issues were being reported. Some reported, no, perfect Microsoft. Some reported that the Xbox 360 crashing with errors. Some reported that hard drives do not respond in certain situations, while others reported error messages during various games or unusually fast overheating, which, man, that thing got hot. You put your hand on it and it would be like, it would burn your hand.
Yeah, I'd actually just crack eggs and cook them on there.
Yeah, I think I saw a lot of images of people doing that, like making tea on it and stuff. So the big thing, 3 flashing red lights.
These sons of bitches.
Yeah, once you see it, it was like, yeah.
It was a death sentence.
Yeah, it really was. 3 flashing red lights on the top right and bottom left, and right locations on the front of the console meant doom. This error code meant general hardware failure. Warning signs may include freeze-ups, graphical problems in the middle of gameplay, such as checkerboard or pinstripe patterns on the screen, and sound errors, mostly consisting of extremely loud noises that can't be affected by the volume control. The console only responding when the power button is pressed to turn it off. So, funny enough, actually, this the solution was, not necessarily simple, but once it was identified, it was easy to fix. The error code is usually caused by the failure of one or more hardware components, although it can indicate that the console is not receiving enough power from the power supply, which can either be due to a faulty power supply or if the power supply cable is not fully inserted into the console. The 3 flashing lights can also be caused by power surges. If the console is connected to an outlet that receives a power surge, it may have a failure, and the 3 lights will appear as long as the console is plugged into the outlet. So turning off the console, unplugging all power cables, and plugging them back in and restarting the console may fix the issue in some cases. So this happened with my second Xbox 360.
Yeah.
At the time, my girlfriend wanted to watch a movie, and she used my Xbox 360. The red lights popped up, she said, and she's like, oh shit, turned it off and unplugged it. Yeah. I don't know why she unplugged it, but it was probably a good thing. So
yeah.
I came home. I remember I was working, and I was like, I'm gonna go play Forza, and she's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's unplugged. And I plugged it back in, fired it up, nothing. She didn't tell me that it had almost bricked for like, I think 2 weeks. She was like, yeah, that happened. And I was like, oh, okay. But that was just kind of a funny thing.
Yeah.
However, the primary cause of the three flashing red lights is overheating. The GPU gets hot and it causes solder strain. The solder was changed to lead-free for European standards, and the solder could dry out. So it was like something with like when it would heat up, the solder would expand and then shrink.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of what I got from the documentary. And it would just like, every time you turn it on, it would heat and then shrink, and then after time, it would just break down.
Just a minor component, and something was slightly changed, and brick.
Yeah. Yep. Conflicting estimates has this between 23.7 to 54.2% failure rates. I don't agree with this number. It's got to be at least 80%.
Sure.
I mean, everybody knows at least one person, if not everybody, that has had a 360.
The ones that didn't fail were the people that weren't playing it off.
Probably, yeah. So it wasn't causing that strain or anything like that. So Microsoft obviously kind of taking this one on the chin. The initial warranty was extended by 3 years, costing more than $1 billion.
You would have to place a phone call and say, hey, I have the thing. They would verify this. They would send you an empty box in the mail, put it in there, send your Xbox 360 away. You sit at home playing Super Nintendo for 3 weeks. You actually had a great time, but you don't want to admit it. Mm-hmm. And then you would get a new 360, not a new one, but like a refurbished one back in the mail.
Yep.
I don't know if it was the same one.
No, I think they just would send you a refurbished one. Yeah. Because I think they were still initially testing the reason why at the time. If you had receipts from GameStop, you could take it back there, and they would send it. They would send it to Microsoft, I think, on their own.
Yeah.
But the problem is that GameStop was losing money during this process.
Yeah.
And they stopped doing it after a while. I remember because I had to buy 3 Xbox 360s. It failed on me twice, and that's what I did. I would just go to GameStop. They would just slap me a new one and then call it a day.
Yeah.
So,
did you know about the towel trick?
No.
Yeah, someone told me about this not too long ago, and I was like, what?
Okay. So you cover the fucker in towels and purposely overheat the console.
You just wrap that shit. It says take all your accessories off.
Yeah?
Yeah, take off your hard disk drive. Don't have anything plugged in. Just the power.
Uh-huh.
You wrap the whole thing in towels, and you purposely heat it up as much as you can, like an exorcism from Stranger Things.
Okay. For 15 to 20 minutes.
15 to 20 minutes, and it would like get hot enough and resolder itself inside.
Okay. I mean,
it worked.
It makes sense to me. This makes sense to me.
I
initially read this and I'm like, is it wet towels or something like that? But yeah, that makes sense if you're just trying to overheat it. And yeah, I mean,
15 to 20 minutes of severe overheating could fix it. What a weird thing.
Yeah, it makes sense once you kind of start to think, obviously, the solder failing, and it's like, yeah.
Post-launch, October 2006, core iterations of this would feature 1080 core iterations. The core model would feature 1080p support for all models and a system update with a different cable sold. April 2007, the Elite model was released with 120 gigabytes for $480. August 2007, the Pro 20 gigabyte model's price was cut to $350. The Core was dropped to $280, and Elite was dropped to $450. September 2007, Pro models were shipped with the new Falcon motherboard. This motherboard included the new 65nm CPUs, making them quieter and cooler than the older systems.
That does bringing me back to the days of like buying those shitty aftermarket intercooler systems that you would just plug into the back.
I never did.
I never did either because I always heard that actually made it worse.
Probably. September 2007, core models were now replaced with what was known as the arcade models. Maintaining the $280 price tag, this came with 256 megabyte memory unit and 5 Xbox Live Arcade titles. Featured an HDMI port. This sucks.
Yep.
August 2008, the Pro 20 gigabyte model would be permanently replaced with the 60 gigabyte model. September of 2008, price cuts for Elite to $400, the 60 gigabyte Pro to $300, and the arcade model down to $200. August 2009, the Pro was discontinued. The Elite price cut to $300. June 2010, the launch of the Xbox 360S, 250 gigabytes to $300. Elite and Arcade discontinued. August 2010, 360S, 4 gigabytes to $200. And June 2013, the launch of the 360E. The 4 gigabytes for some money. I put down $0, which isn't right.
Okay.
And the 360E, 250 gigabytes for $300. I did not realize that as far back as the 360, did they have the S and the E and the weirdness?
Yeah, the E came out, I know, at the tail end of everything, and yeah, that was a wild time because I didn't even register that as the thing. I think I was already looking into the future of like PS4 and
those. Yeah, I mean, these were getting released when there were other like newer generations around.
Yeah, I want to say 2013. Yeah, because the PS4 came out in 2013. I think right before this. I remember I got my appendix removed the day before the PS4 came out.
You'll never forget.
Yeah, coming out of the hospital, I remember it was like the day of launch, and my wife is like, "All right, let's go home." I was like, "Nope, I have my pre-orders at Best Buy, and I'm off of work for 2 weeks, so
We're going.
She's like, "You stupid ass."
But yes, we're going to stop regardless.
Yeah, of course. So, because I was like, "What else am I going to do?" Accessories. Oh man, this was a time, man, when you got so many cool accessories. Rechargeable battery packs, because this is a time when pretty much it was wireless controllers out of the box.
Yeah.
Rechargeable battery packs provide up to 25 hours of gaming. It also came with like obviously little cartridges you could put AA batteries in as well.
This is funny. This is a Mad Catz attachment on the back of this official Xbox controller.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it looks so real. Looks exactly like it.
So it's funny to me, the idea of controllers taking 2 AA's.
Yeah.
It's something that is the way of the past now. Mm-hmm. The number of my 16 or whatever 360 controllers, some of them have the battery packs, some of them have batteries. If you leave those batteries and the battery packs in a long time, they get super crusty. I forget the term. And they will just... it's ruined.
Yeah.
So
I found that out with a lot of my old 360 controllers that no battery packs work on them at all anymore. So
yeah,
you got to plug them in.
If you have old controllers that have batteries, take all the batteries out, and it'll keep them lasting a lot longer.
Especially the PSP, guys. If you guys haven't played your PSP in a long time, please check on it.
Yeah,
because that battery pack will swell.
Ew.
Like I discovered that a couple of years ago, actually, where I was like, I pulled out my PSP and all of a sudden, like I couldn't keep my battery, the back kind of plate, was like popping out, and I was like, why the hell is it doing this? And it had blown up like a balloon, which those old PSP batteries tend to do.
That's crazy.
So check on your 360 controllers; they'd probably appreciate you visiting from time to time.
Do a welfare check.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Dad, how you doing?
I know I haven't talked to you in like 15 years,
but
you still got Crisis Core in you?
You doing all right? You doing all right? Oh, you want to play Perfect Dark Zero?
Go back in the box.
Maybe later.
Go back in the box.
Maybe later. Maybe Gears of War or something.
Yeah.
The Messenger kit. God, this keyboard.
I hate those so much.
I hate this thing so much. But this was like honestly, this was the best way to send messages to your friends, I guess. You know, when you want to send that angry message to that guy that pwned you.
Yeah.
Remember that phrase, pwned?
Yep.
God, this was a time.
Yeah, when this had the entire keyboard grafted onto the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, with the delete language, because sometimes when you're trying to send an angry message, you're just kind of trying to shorten your words every now and then.
Yep.
You know, THX and yada yada. So, yeah, it attached to the bottom of the controller, and it actually kind of like it fell in line with the bottom curve of the controller, and then it like flattened out at the bottom, so it wasn't like too obtuse and out of the way. It actually fit pretty well, but the buttons were so small.
Yeah.
And it's not like I have big thumbs, but it was just awkward. The media remote would replace the previous white remote. This black model is glossy and resembles the new S consoles.
I've never been someone that bought a DVD remote.
Nope.
To me, they're for if your non-gaming spouse or someone else wants to watch something through that console, that's what you get them for.
Yep.
I don't understand the efficacy because they still have to at least navigate or through the menus.
Yeah, and you have a controller,
which has everything you need.
Everything you need on it. Yeah, for sure. The wireless racing wheel, force feedback steering wheel included gamepad buttons and floor-mounted pedals. This racing wheel was really really good.
It looked substantial from the pictures I saw.
Yeah. A friend of mine sold me his years and years and years ago, and I was surprised at how. I mean, I had used other steering wheels at the time, but I was surprised at how like just well put together it was. So
Yeah.
you had a wireless racing wheel, force feedback steering wheel, included gamepad buttons and floor mounted pedals. This was awful.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's not. It's like a cousin of the Mario Kart.
Oh wait, I
wheel.
read the same thing twice. It was just a steering wheel with D-pads, 2 triggers, and 4 action buttons.
Yeah, but to me, it's like the Mario Kart thing where you slap the Wii
Yep.
controller in. A little bit like that. It looks stupid.
Was this the one that looked like a U?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah, that's right. Yes, this thing was awful.
Yeah, anything that's just a wireless, I don't like those.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a fan of it. This was cool. The big button pad for the game Seen It.
I've never played them.
I played it all the time with friends. You would buy like the game itself was like I think $80, and it came with like 2 controllers.
Yeah.
So it was actually pretty good. I mean, it was just general, Hollywood or like pop culture style like trivia questions, and then you would hit the big button at the top, or like you had small buttons or whatever.
That does sound cool. There's something nice about the big button.
Yeah, the big button. Yeah, and it worked really well. So especially if for people that were just didn't have gamer brains, couldn't wrap their heads around a controller, like just hit the button when you're ready to answer.
The gamer brain.
So the Xbox 360 wireless adapter when everybody had wireless internet. It connects via USB port and supports 802.11a and 802.11bg Wi-Fi. So
I have one of these.
yeah.
I don't know if I bought it or I inherited it through some weird LAN party scenario, but yes, it was just that way you don't have to have the Ethernet plugged in. Because back in the day when I wanted to play Halo, I had an Ethernet cord I would run from my bedroom and plug all the way back in the computer room.
Yeah.
And then I had to unplug it when I was done because my parents wouldn't let that shit just be sitting out in the hallway.
Yeah, I'd gotten my first apartment at the time, and that was the same thing. My router was in a second bedroom, and my TV was in the living room. So if I wanted to play like Gears or Halo or whatever, like I had the 20-foot
Those were the
Ethernet
days.
cables. Yeah, man. It had one white antenna. However, the wireless N adapter that came out a couple years later had 2 black antennas.
That way you know it's better.
Exactly. So it supported 802.11n. And there's probably people out there that is hearing me say that, and they're like, it's 802.11. And both 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz bands. So for fast processing and fast downloading. And then also the live vision camera.
Which I never touched.
The only thing that I think I used it for was playing Burnout. Was it Burnout Paradise at the time? Where it would like, when you would crash, it would create a snapshot of your face after the crash, which was just dumb.
To me, this is like the switch to like, now you can see your friends. I'm like, we've had this option and none of us liked it.
Yeah,
Stop.
none of us like it, so
We don't want this.
yeah, we don't.
There was, of course, the HD DVD drive announced at CES 2006. We're not going to get into it too much, but there was, of course, the Blu-ray versus HD DVD war that happened. Certain studios would only make HD DVDs. Certain would only make Blu-rays. The PS3 had a Blu-ray player.
Yep.
The Xbox 360 could not play HD DVDs, but there was the convenient $200 HD DVD attachment. Just buy your own separate HD DVD player.
Yeah, bro.
But in fact, don't.
Yeah. Obviously, as we know in the end, Blu-ray won out because that's what the porn industry picked. So
Is that true?
that's what that was a running joke at the time. I know for a lot of us, where they were like, okay, Blu-ray versus HD DVD, who wins? And I had a couple friends that always were like, whatever the porn industry picks.
Well, I think part of
Because that's
it,
how like VHS won over Betamax. The porn industry picked VHS.
well, and I think the reason that they would have chose Blu-ray over HD DVD is because many more people had Blu-ray players just because of the PS3.
Yeah.
And the fact that you didn't when you bought an Xbox 360, I think that made a huge difference in what lasted. And we're still using Blu-ray now, 4K Blu-rays, but they're still Blu-rays.
Yeah.
This was discontinued February 23rd, 2008.
Wasn't the concept like Blu-ray held more data compared to HD DVD or something like that?
I think it was better.
Yeah.
Then there was the Kinect.
Oh, yeah.
Development started around 2005. Microsoft wanted a 3D camera for the Xbox. PrimeSense were developing a way to integrate cameras into gaming by mapping a human body in front of them and sensing hand motions.
What was the one, the thing Peter Molyneux did? Are we talking about that? Am I jumping ahead?
It's where he jerked himself off.
Yeah, right. He's like, look at this. You could talk to this little child.
2006, Alex Kipman, the general manager of Hardware Incubation, saw a presentation and he knew that this was what they were looking for. The Nintendo Wii released in November 2006, and then Microsoft felt pressure to move forward.
Yeah.
Skeletal tracking proved difficult and wasn't properly doable until 2008. And June 1st, 2009, Steven Spielberg debuts the Kinect at E3.
What a time.
It was called Project Natal at the time. And yeah,
Steven Spielberg getting involved in video games.
He always wanted to be involved in games, and he never really did anything.
Yeah.
Like, what was that, Boom Blocks for the
Yeah,
Wii?
that was the DreamWorks software or something like that. That was his first foray into video games.
And he was just like throwing things at blocks, which honestly, Angry Birds proved that is very viable.
Yes, very fun for anybody.
But yeah, I don't know. Spielberg just seems like he so badly wanted to get into games, and it never quite worked for him. E3 2010, Project Natal is now named Kinect. In November 4th of that year, Kinect releases. It sold 8 million units its first 60 days of release. Those are not bad numbers.
No, I had bought one on day one. I mean, I'll admit.
I didn't think this was something I would ever want. And I was right.
It was interesting for a time. There was obviously games that worked better than others. You could definitely tell. Like Kinect Adventures was kind of like a fun tech demo thing, kind of like how 1-2 Switch was. Dance Central, I think at the time, was probably the most polished because it was made by the guys that did Rock Band.
Yeah.
And the tracking was actually really good on it. Especially if you were like, I mean, the game required you to know dance moves. So
you can't fake it.
Yeah, you can't fake it. You gotta actually know what you're doing. So
yeah, and I think that one of the problems with the Kinect is they didn't have a lot of real games, like serious, like not mature, but real games. They had like the friendly, soft little party shovelware stuff, but they don't have Call of Duty for the Kinect.
Yeah, and they tried to do that with they tried to integrate Kinect functionality with certain games. Like I remember Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, instead of like, doing the old school way of selecting what you want to say with the conversation wheel, you could just say it. So long as you hit the button to, turn on the microphone.
Yeah.
I mean, I never used that.
An estimated 20% of 360 owners would use the Kinect. While the Kinect for the Xbox platform did peter out, the Kinect was being used in academia and other applications since around 2011. The functionality of the unit, along with its low $150 price tag, was seen to be inexpensive means to add depth sensing to existing applications, offsetting the high cost and unreliability of other 3D camera options at the time. In robotics, Kinect's depth sensing would enable robots to determine the shape and approximate distances to obstacles and maneuver around them. Within the medical field, the Kinect could be used to monitor the shape and posture of a body in a quantifiable manner to enable improved healthcare decisions. Fuck yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool that at the very least, like it was an endeavor that was well worth it because, I mean, it was. I guess motion tracking was kind of ahead of its time, and it's so niche that it's like, how do you actually really effectively use it in a game? And it's probably the precursor to the VR headsets that we have now at this point. But
It's so cool. I remember reading that in like game magazines 8 years later, like Kinect is still being used in medical facilities. I was like, no shit, which proves it was well made. And the idea they were going for, I don't think enough game studios wanted to put the time and effort into something that might not be profitable for them.
Oh, yeah.
But the hardware was there.
Yes, it was. And while it may not have been good for video games, admittedly, some of the stuff that we had were just like we said, really crappy shovelware, just some gimmick or something like that. But, you can get old with it real quick. But yeah, like I said, I think the only thing that I had younger cousins at the time that loved coming over to play Dance Central with us. So they were always like, Friday night, Saturday night, like, can we come over and play Dance Central? I'm like, yeah, sure, come on over. So, because they love dancing. So
I saw my cousin's kid, and I hadn't seen him for like a long time, for like 12 years. And he was a little kid last time I hung out with him here it was in South Dakota. And now he's fucking graduating college. He's like, I remember going to your house and playing those fucking little bongo games on the GameCube. And, he's like, that was so cool. And I'm like, Actually, that game sucks, but I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah, it is funny looking back at some of those old memories and just being like, that. I mean, that was fun at the time, but
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, what was that? I mean, did you ever play any Kinect games?
I don't believe so.
Okay, all right. There was like a Star Wars game that was like super hyped because it was like cool because it could track like Jedi powers if you ever wanted to do like push or you wanted to grab or something like that. It was not intuitive at all.
Yeah.
It came out and it just landed with a thud.
Yep.
Which was a shame. I think that's what literally when you think about the Kinect and you think about the hand tracking, that's one of the first things you think of. It's like, man, I could be a Jedi.
Yeah.
And it just not good. So, Xbox Elite, Xbox 360 Elite. We started seeing some other iterations. Obviously, it comes with a 120 gigabyte hard drive that launched at 300. The Xbox 360S, which is known as the Xbox 360 Slim. The Xbox 360S was announced at E3 2010 on June 14th. This did not obviously have the old hardware problems that the original version did.
Probably one of the reasons they wanted to let's get some new models. Let's put a fucking letter on it so people know what they're buying.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd like the look of it.
I did too. I still have mine to this day.
I have mine somewhere.
Yeah. Launched in June 18th, 2010 for $300 with a 250 gigabyte HDD, which is now internal. They took out the external one, I think, right?
Yep.
So swapping those out was no longer possible. Unless you wanted to crack open the hardware.
But with 250 gigabytes, you didn't really need to.
At that time, that was more than enough.
More than enough. Now that is like one Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly. So, one, maybe two.
Yeah.
It had a glossy black finish. The internal hardware was redesigned using a new motherboard, codenamed Valhalla, which integrates the CPU, GPU, and EDRAM into a single package using fortified 45 NM fabrication process. I'm really sorry, nerds. Okay, I'm really sorry.
We want you guys to be taken care of.
I know, yeah, but it's like I know it.
Watch My Life in Gaming if you want to go have somebody tell you about stuff you don't understand.
I met that guy in person. I met both those guys in person at Midwest Gaming Classic.
Yeah,
they wear that nerd badge with it's a badge of honor.
I watched their videos and I'm like, I don't know what we're talking about, but I'm interested.
Yeah, for sure. So, when I see NM, I'm thinking nano machine or something like that, and I know that's not what it is. Nanometer, yeah, fabrication process. The S has 2 additional rear USB ports, as well as a proprietary port used to connect the Kinect sensor, and it also had built-in Wi-Fi, which was nice.
That is nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Wi-Fi was pretty much, hey kids, back in the day, you had to manually connect cords to your modem in order for it to work, to get on the internet.
Get a load of that.
Yeah, that's crazy. There was no wireless anything.
When the Xbox original one came out, I had to figure out what a subnet mask, what a DRS was.
Yep.
I don't know what's the IP address?
You had to manually put in your IP address.
We didn't have Bing,
You had to call your provider and be like, what's my IP address? You had to write it down. Oh, God, those were the days.
Yeah.
Xbox 360e launched in June 10th, 2013. It's a revision of the S with an Xbox One inspired casing, because that's not confusing at all, and 1 fewer USB port.
Yes.
So,
top 10 best-selling games for the Xbox 360.
This is funny.
Number 10.
I didn't realize number 1. Yes. Number 1 will shock you.
Number 10, Grand Theft Auto 4 with 11.1 million. Number 9, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, 13.49 million. Number 8, Skyrim, 13.7 million. Call of Duty Black Ops 2, 13.7 million. Halo 3 is number 6 with 14.5 million. Call of Duty Black Ops, 14.55 million is number 5. Number 4 is Call of Duty again, Modern Warfare 3, 14.72 million. Number 3 is Minecraft, 22 million. Number 2, Grand Theft Auto 5, 22.95 million. And number 1, best-selling Xbox 360 game of all time.
I don't believe this at all.
Kinect Adventures with 24 million units sold. I think
probably the pack. It was a packing game.
The gift of the pack-in.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Yes.
So keep in mind, kids, that Grand Theft Auto 5 came out on the Xbox 360 and PS3 hardware.
Keep in mind, Skyrim
2 as well.
These old games that are still being released many, many times.
Yep. So I'm actually surprised Halo 3 wasn't higher because, man, it seems like everybody was on that shit.
I'm surprised that Call of Duty was as high. All of them are.
Yeah.
This was very much a Call of Duty machine.
Yeah, it really was. Modern Warfare 2, I remember, just was, it was the same thing as Halo 3. Everybody was on it. Everybody was playing it.
Yep. Yeah, and other great games for the 360. We could talk about these for another 10 episodes.
Oh my God, yeah.
So many franchises, so many big games.
So many franchises that actually started in this generation that still...
Mass Effect.
Yep.
You've heard of Mass Effect, Stoy.
Yeah, I've played it once or twice in my life.
What do you like more, Mass Effect or Resident Evil? I really am forcing you to deal with an issue right now.
Yes, you are. I want to say maybe Resident Evil because of the long history.
Yep.
And I have good memories with friends playing those games. However, if in terms of like connecting with characters, I connect with, obviously I have this obviously love relationship with Leon Kennedy
and Rebecca Chambers. I know you're a huge diehard fan.
Yep.
Salazar.
Yeah. Salazar, that's a weird romantic relationship I have with him.
Yeah, well, he's old enough.
He's old enough, yeah. It's just he looks like a child.
BioShock.
Yes.
There's some of these titles where I'm like, this is next-gen gaming.
It really is.
BioShock and Assassin's Creed started on the 360, and of course the PlayStation 3. But like these games were defining for the generation.
I want to talk about Gears of War and Rainbow Six Vegas that came out at the same time.
Okay.
And everybody was hot up on Gears of War at this time. Yeah. And like this new franchise with these big burly dudes fighting these these guys coming out of the ground or whatever,
this is
the locusts.
The epitome of the Mountain Dew generation.
Yes, 100% yes. Big burly bicep dudes screaming and just like chainsawing enemies.
Soul patches were never cool.
Nope.
Marcus Phoenix didn't care.
Yep.
And he spelled his name stupid too.
Yep. And yeah, Phoenix with an F.
Fucking Cliffy B, dude. Cliffy B.
Well, and then obviously everybody had do-rags on. All these white guys started wearing do-rags because they thought it was cool. It's like, nope, not on you.
Gears of War, great game.
100%. Like all praises, that it got was well deserved.
The perfect reload system, revolutionary.
Yep.
And that duck and cover. I had a buddy. Him and I would like just co-op through those campaigns. Loved it.
Oh my God, yeah.
The gameplay is tight.
Yeah, it really is. It really kind of revolutionized. We got cover mechanics, I think, in the Xbox and PS2 generation, but 360 era is when we started to see really good cover mechanics. And reason why I bring up Rainbow Six Vegas is arguably I think it had a better cover mechanic system.
Okay.
And obviously people were either playing Rainbow Six and Gears of War at the time, and playing online, and obviously different mechanics, different Gears of War was more run and gun, whereas Rainbow Six was a little bit more tactical at the time. And I'll never forget, I had a friend of mine that came over, he's like, I really want to try out this 360. And he's like, Gears of War, man, that looks so cool. And I was like, yeah, we can play Rainbow Six Vegas too. He's like, fuck Rainbow Six, like Gears of War. And I'm like, okay, whatever. We can play both.
Aliens.
Yeah, whatever. Just like you got these big chainsaw guns. Like, what's cool about that? And, he played Gears of War. Then he hopped over to Rainbow Six Vegas and...
No turning back.
No turning back. Rainbow Six Vegas for him all the way, baby. He didn't even think about Gears of War after that. I was actually kind of surprised.
Arkham games.
Oh, my God.
Arkham City, Arkham Knight.
Arkham
Knight.
When was the last
City
time,
and Arkham Asylum.
When was the last time we had a good Batman game before then? I really...
Suicide Squad. Oh, before then.
Before then.
And then not Suicide
No,
Squad.
not after. Yeah.
I don't know. There's that one Sega Genesis Batman and Robin game that was like a run and gun.
Yeah, that was it had like weird, it had almost like 3D or 2.5D graphic.
You could throw like a billion batarangs.
Yeah, that was the thing.
That was a fun game.
Batman Returns for the Super Nintendo was really good. Because that was like an old school side-scrolling beat 'em up.
The George Clooney PS1 Batman games were not good.
Nope, they were not. Batman Forever was not good.
Dark
either.
Souls, Fallout 3, Red Dead Redemption, Portal 2, Halo, Halo Reach, Halo 3, ODST. So many fantastic games on the 360.
Halo Reach still, like I said, I just played it recently, the remastered edition, and it's so good. So good.
The Halo games, perfect. Halos 1 through Reach, I would mark of approval forever. I just got the Halo Trilogy vinyl box set, and it's just such a good listen. Those games are
Marty O'Donnell.
Yep. Before he went weird.
Yep.
Still amazing composer. He wrote Flintstones Kids, if you didn't know that.
Mirror's Edge was a kind of an interesting game because it was EA was at the time was like, okay, we got to go for these like big studio productions, these big games and stuff. And Mirror's Edge was such a niche game at the time.
It's a FPR.
Yeah. And but the gameplay was so tight and so well done. Like, how could you make a good parkour game without having and make it as easy as possible for people to get in?
And first person.
Yeah, first person,
which is tough.
Yes, it is, and terrifying. If you miss that jump and you're afraid of heights,
yeah,
you are. But it did so. It was like kind of one of those like I mean, what's the phrase where it was like kind of like a cult classic, where it was like there was a small group of people playing it, but they were praising it 10 out of 10 game and stuff, and EA was like, well, it didn't make enough money for us. And then they begrudgingly made a second one.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I think still it wasn't financially successful according to them. But yeah.
Losers.
Yeah, right. So, which I get it. I mean, video games are a business. We've talked about that before, but Fallout 3 though.
I've never played a Fallout game.
You've never played Fallout 3?
I like Ella Purnell.
Oh, okay.
A little Walton Goggins action.
Oh yeah. The show was really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, I did try and play Fallout 3 or 4. I forget which one. The VAT system I did not comprehend at the time and didn't want no part of that shit.
That was interesting because the first Fallout game I ever played was 3.
Yeah.
And that definitely took some getting used to because you want to play it like a old school first person shooter, but it's much harder that way. So, the legacy and the death of the 360, which that all good times must come to an end. It was the first console that came out of the 7th generation. The PS3 will launch at 2 price points of $500 and $600, which gave the 360 a very, very great starting point.
That was a disastrous E3 for Sony.
It really was.
They were riding high on the fact that everyone's going to buy our shit no matter what. We're the beloved winners of the previous generation.
Yep.
People want us. And for them to come out, and the games they showed off that E3, none of them were crazy impressive. And then they said that price point of $600, and everyone's like, I don't know anymore.
Yeah. 360 has games, and yeah, they have the kind of like the same architecture.
Halo 3 was coming out right around that time, and Halo 3 was a huge, huge deal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Big. It was like a world changing event at the time.
Yep.
And I know Sony's the king of technology. They're the king of giving you really good hardware. And I think at the time, Blu-ray DVD players were still like $200.
Yeah.
So this was probably the best way to get a Blu-ray player.
That's a good argument.
Yes. But obviously when you see a $200 difference between the systems, people are going to vote with their wallets.
Yep.
Ultimately, I think in the end, the PS3 had a kind of like a second
wind.
A second wind at the end when they kind of like started lowering the prices and started making good games. 360 ultimately would sell 84 million units behind the PS3 with 87.4 and the Wii with a whopping 101.63 million.
And, if people love those, like, who won the generation? Gamers, we won. All of these consoles had a lot of really cool things going on with it. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine life without my 360, and people say it got third place. I think it was a massive success. It's the best-selling Xbox console of all time.
Yep.
And nothing but good feelings, even through the Red Ring of Death, which they handled with as much grace as they could. Mm-hmm. I never owned a PS3, and I don't think I've really beaten a PS3 game ever on a native PS3. But I also, I'm very beloved, this little 360 of mine.
Yeah, even like people that you talk to this day that maybe like gave up gaming around this time, you would see a lot of people that would grow up playing video games, and then once they got to their early 20s, the Xbox 360 generation was their last hurrah. They're having fond memories of playing Battlefield, playing Call of Duty and stuff like that, and then just like obviously moving on to be more adult, do more adult things, I guess, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But it was a good swan song for a lot of people, kind of maybe ending their video game careers and ending on a high note because the Xbox 360 revolutionized a lot of things for us that we still reap the benefits of to this day.
Oh yeah.
Online
gaming is a fact of life that Xbox started.
Yeah, they really did, and they were the pioneers of it. PS3 stumbled with it a little bit. Their game chats were awful. Their internets, their online capabilities were also awful.
And their PlayStation 3 coming out with the Spider-Man fonts and like debuting that boomerang-looking controller.
Yeah, that was
It looked like they made so many poor decisions, giving 360 all of the fuel to start the console.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really did. Like I said, in those first initial years of the PS3, they struggled. Their first controller didn't have Rumble because Sony was like, no one wants Rumble in their controllers, and 1 year later they pivoted.
Yeah,
they put Rumble back in. So, yeah, the 360 would change the way we received multimedia and interacted with our game consoles. Like the fact that you could just download games straight from there. You didn't need a disc, then it opened up the market for a lot of independent developers.
Yeah.
And Xbox was very friendly with a lot of independent developers. A lot of big developers right now started out maybe just releasing 1 or 2 small games on the 360 that they worked on themselves.
It was the first way for small indie developers to get their games into someone's hands on a console.
On a console.
PC
especially.
is one thing, but to be able to like go to Xbox Live Arcade and download Braid or Bastion, that was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And it changed the way indie developers were able to make money and to thrive. And Xbox, big supporter of that. And they've always been a big supporter of gamers with disabilities, going out of their way to make things work for gamers. I think Microsoft has a really good PR team.
Yep.
And they generally know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. This was the time. Yeah, I think in this generation, they started the ID program where they actually worked. Like if you came up to Microsoft and said like, hey, I have an idea for this game, and maybe you give them like a pretty rough demo or something like that, and they can kind of support you with maybe some marketing or maybe, obviously boosting the status of your game once it gets to the marketplace and stuff. Maybe even giving you some funding a little bit to, help pad the pocketbook a bit. So, yeah, they were really friendly with developers at the time. I think obviously one of the first. So, production ended on April 2nd, 2016. And as recent as last year, as of the time of this recording, the marketplace and store was shut down on July 29th, 2024.
Crazy.
Yeah. So that was
the 360.
Yeah, that was the 360.
Beloved console. I was asked one time if you only were allowed one video game console and its entire library of games for the rest of time, which would you choose? And at the time, I'm like, maybe the 360. It had a lot of games, had a lot of everything. Now it'd be, you just default to whatever the newest console is because everything's remastered. Most games that matter have remastered versions available.
Yeah.
But, at the time, 360 was just awesome.
Yeah, I would say now the Series X because, obviously you can play all the way back to the original Xbox.
Yeah.
Not every game, but obviously a good chunk of games you could still play on the Series X. But yeah, the 360 had so many, fresh, good starts for new franchises. Really good, returning franchises, finding, big strides on the 360 as well. And yeah, just even like, obviously you can't quantify it, but just the fond memories with friends, LAN parties, even just like getting together with a bunch of your friends online to just be like, yeah, you can have a friend that moved away from you, but like you could still like link up, and just, shoot shit with them, play some Halo, play some Rainbow Six, and just have a good time. Left 4 Dead. I have so many fond memories playing that with a friend of mine that moved to Philadelphia. Yeah. And just like, it seemed like every night, we would log on and just play the same campaign over and over again. But just the fact that 360 gave us a good option to do that and a very streamlined, like well-run system to do that was. So thank you, 360.
Thank you.
Thank you, 360.
If you want to support this podcast in any way, you can do so as simply by leaving a review. Give us 5 stars. Tell your friends about it. If you want
tell your enemies about it.
Tell everyone about it.
Yeah.
Now, this is the Xbox 360 console retrospective. If you want access to the OG Xbox console retrospective, that is a Patreon exclusive. And to access those episodes, just go to patreon.com/hairofthedogcast. That'll get you access to tons of bonus episodes of Raw Dogs, episodes of Elden Dogs or Elden Ring Show, and Popcorn Dogs or Movie and Television. Look up all those other podcasts because they're all great and they're very similar to this. And yeah, there's a free trial too if you want to check out any episodes on there. We encourage that, but check that out if you want to. Special thanks to Patreon executive producers Brian Ward, Ryan Christianek, Kip Kipper, Phil Wright, Jordan Hoff, Kelly Gutowski, Brian Ross, Phil Just Red Bear, Phil, Justin Melly, Just Sonic, Horny Jim, Levi Wayne, and Spetsnaz. Special thanks to all of you. And
thank you very much.
Go take those batteries out of your controllers, folks.
Yes, please do a wellness check on your 360s. Maybe even plug it in and show it some love a little bit.
You don't have to go that far.
Yeah, I was going to say. I fired up my old 360 the other day to play Battlefield Bad Company 2.
Yeah.
Great game, actually. Bad Company needs to come back. But just how slow the menu moves compared to what I'm used to now. Oof.
And we will see you next time, gamers, here on Raw.
See you next time.